In 1943, Japan launched a destroyer faster than its own torpedoes. Shimakaze was built to outrun and outgun every enemy on the ocean, designed for a top speed of 41 knots, powered by 75,000 horsepower, and armed with 15 long lance torpedo tubes. On paper, it was the fastest operational warship ever built. But on its ultimate mission, physics turned this engineering masterpiece into a death trap in barely 15 minutes. How could the world's fastest warship end up helpless and destroyed by the very forces it tried to conquer? Shimakaze was not just fast, she was a leap past the limits of her own era. During sea trials in April 1943, the destroyer reached 40.9 knots, nearly 76 kilometers per hour, driven by 75,000 shaft horsepower packed into a hull barely 129 meters long. On paper, this was more than just a number. Most Japanese destroyers of the time topped out around 35 knots. Shimakaze left them, and even some torpedoes trailing far behind. Speed, though, is not just a bragging right. At 41 knots, a ship moves so quickly that the geometry of battle changes. Gunnery officers relied on optical rangefinders and directors designed to track targets at speeds up to 35 knots. When Shimakaze sprinted past that, the very sensors meant to protect her struggled to keep up. The ship could outrun the calculations of her own fire control teams. Enemy gunners faced an even harder task. The destroyer's wake blurred across the water. Positions shifted every second, and by the time a gun director lined up, the ship was gone. But with that raw velocity came a hidden cost. The faster she moved, the more she slipped out of sync with the systems built to guide and defend her. The promise of untouchable speed carried an invisible flaw, a ship that could outpace not only her enemies, but also the very technology meant to keep her alive. For Shimakaze, the frontier of velocity was also the edge of vulnerability. Packing 75,000 shaft horsepower into a destroyer hull was an act of engineering audacity. Shimakaze's 3 Campon boilers worked at 40 kilograms per square centimeter and 400 degrees Celsius, driving turbines that could outmuscle anything afloat in her class. During trials, the plant even pushed past its rating, reaching more than 79,000 horsepower. That much energy, bottled inside a hull just over 129 meters long, left almost no margin for error. Every extra knot squeezed from the engines meant thinner steel, tighter machinery spaces, and less room for reinforcement. Weaponry followed the same logic. If one torpedo was dangerous, 15 would be overwhelming. Shimakaze carried 3 quintuple launchers, a configuration no other destroyer ever matched. Each tube was loaded with a Type 93 long lance torpedo, itself a marvel of chemistry and danger. These torpedoes were powered by a kerosene-oxygen mix. The Type 93 could travel over 40 kilometers at 36 knots or sprint at 50 knots for shorter distances. Its warhead weighed nearly 490 kilograms, enough to break the back of a cruiser in a single hit. But these torpedoes brought their own risks. Pure oxygen made them faster and stealthier, but also volatile. The machinery to handle them filled every spare compartment, crowding the ship's center with high-pressure lines and explosive potential. In pursuit of overwhelming force, Shimakaze became a destroyer with the heart of a battleship and the fragility of a test model pushed to its limits. Orders from Tokyo reached the fleet. 5,000 troops had to reach Leyte at any cost. The only way was by sea, through waters now ruled by United States carriers and submarines. Shimakaze, designed to slice through the Pacific at over 40 knots, was assigned to Convoy TA-3. Her new mission was to escort a line of slow, crowded transports into Ormoc Bay. Each ship was packed with soldiers, equipment, and hope for a battle already slipping from Japan's grasp. For the High Command, there was no real choice. Fast warships had become too precious for solo strikes. Every available hull was needed to shepherd reinforcements through the gauntlet. The convoy's speed dropped to a crawl, barely 10 knots, matching the slowest, most vulnerable merchantmen. Shimakaze's engines, built for sprints, now idled in frustration. The destroyer's edge vanished, her promise of untouchable speed neutralized by the plodding pace of the convoy. The logic was simple, if merciless. Without escorts, the transports would be picked off before reaching shore. But by tying Shimakaze to the column, Command traded her greatest asset for a single, desperate chance at reinforcement. The thin-skinned transports, never meant for frontline combat, offered no protection against bombs or torpedoes. Their decks were lined with men, their hulls with fuel and ammunition. Every minute at sea was a gamble. The destroyer, once a fleet assassin, was now locked into a timetable set by others, her fate bound to ships she could neither outpace nor truly defend. At dawn, on November 11, 1944, American carriers off Leyte signaled their air groups to launch. More than 100 aircraft from Task Group 38.4 roared off the decks, each pilot holding the convoy's fate in their hands. The Japanese ships below crawled through Ormoc Bay at barely 10 knots, locked into formation by the slowest transport. Above, American intelligence had already mapped every move. Ultra codebreakers had intercepted convoy orders, pinpointing the exact time and the route. There was no chance for surprise, no hope of slipping through undetected. The first wave came in low, engines throttled for mast-height attack runs. Fighters and bombers ignored the destroyers, focusing on the transports packed with soldiers. Bombs slammed into hulls at the waterline, detonating with such force that steel plates peeled back and decks vanished in white spray. Thin-skinned merchant ships, never built for battle, did not sink. They simply broke apart. In less than 15 minutes, the sea was covered in burning oil, shattered lifeboats, and the bodies of nearly 5,000 men. The air filled with the noise of engines, the roar of explosions, and the brief, frantic signals of ships going under. The destroyers, including Shimakaze, could only watch as the transports disintegrated. The strike had been planned for maximum shock. Mast-height bombing left no time for evasive action, no margin for error. The convoy's mission ended before most on board even understood what was happening. The attack was not a battle, it was an execution, swift, overwhelming, and total. Shockwaves from near-miss bombs hammered Shimakaze's hull with invisible fists. Each pressure pulse slammed into the thin steel plates, scantlings shaved down to save weight for speed, forcing the structure to flex and shudder. The hull, built for slicing through water at 40 knots, was never meant to absorb underwater blasts. Rivets popped like corn, seams strained, and deck plates buckled as the energy traveled through the ship's frame. Water forced its way in through hairline cracks, finding every weak point. The destroyer's agility, once her greatest weapon, now turned against her. Every high-speed turn exposed new surfaces to the shock, multiplying the stress. Evasion bought seconds, but the laws of physics were relentless. The battered hull began to deform under the repeated blows, setting off a chain of failures deep inside the ship. Inside Shimakaze, the chain reaction began almost invisibly. Shrapnel from near misses tore through the hull, slicing into high-pressure steam lines running just inches from the engine room crew. In an instant, superheated steam, over 400 degrees Celsius, burst free, flash boiling flesh and air alike. The men below had no warning. One breath and lungs were seared shut. As the turbines lost power, the destroyer staggered to a halt, dead in the water. Bombs and gunfire struck the torpedo mounts next. Oxygen-fed Type 93 torpedoes, each loaded with nearly half a ton of explosives, turned the heart of the ship into a bomb. The resulting explosion ripped through the hull, shattering steel and silence together. Shimakaze vanished beneath the surface, her weapons unfired, her promise erased in a few violent minutes. Today, war technology still races ahead, often faster than the realities that govern it. Shimakaze's wreck, upright and untouched since 2017, is a silent warning. No design, however perfect, escapes the laws of physics. Progress demands ambition, but it must never forget the limits that nature sets. What lesson stands out to you?